Imagine waking up tomorrow with complete clarity, unshakable calm, and the strength to handle anything life throws at you. No panic, no overthinking, no wasted energy on stress. Sounds impossible? The truth is, it's not. For over 2,000 years, the ancient philosophy of Stoicism has been teaching people how to live exactly this way: grounded, resilient, and free from the chaos of the world. Maybe you've felt the urge to hit the reset button on your life, to clear away confusion, silence the noise, and finally live with purpose and inner strength. If so, this may be the most important roadmap you will ever discover. In this video, we'll explore 25 timeless Stoic principles that can reshape the way you think, respond, and live. These are not abstract theories trapped in dusty books. They are practical strategies for dealing with failure, overcoming uncertainty, and protecting your peace of mind in today's noisy, distracted world. Picture yourself as a tree in the middle of a storm. The winds howl, the branches bend, the leaves scatter, yet the trunk stands firm, the roots unshaken. That's what Stoicism trains you to become. Calm at the center, no matter how wild the storm outside. This isn't about coldness or detachment. It's about what I call silent resilience. The ability to remain strong without shouting, calm without weakness, and steady without needing to prove yourself. Real power doesn't come from the roar of thunder. It comes from the steady light that endures through the darkest night. So I invite you to pause for a moment. Let go of other distractions and focus fully on this journey. Because what you're about to hear is more than philosophy, and it's a manual for life. Now, let's step into the first Stoic principle. One of the most overlooked superpowers in our noisy modern world. Listening is more important than speaking. The very first Stoic principle invites us to pause, reflect, and master one of the rarest yet most transformative skills in today's world: the art of listening. In an age of endless noise, rapid opinions, and constant pressure to be heard, Stoicism reminds us that wisdom doesn't begin with speaking, it begins with listening. The Stoics, from Epictetus to Marcus Aurelius, understood that listening is not a passive act, but an active discipline. It is about creating space within ourselves to truly absorb, to reflect, and to understand before rushing to respond. When we listen deeply, we are not merely waiting for our turn to speak. We are honoring the humanity of the person in front of us, respecting their perspective, and allowing ourselves to expand beyond the prison of our own limited view. Think about how revolutionary this is in modern life. Social media trains us to shout louder, argue faster, and express opinions instantly. Conversations often turn into debates, with each side focused on proving a point rather than seeking understanding. But the Stoic approach flips this completely. By practicing intentional listening, we lower the volume of our ego and raise the level of our awareness. Imagine walking into a conversation with the calmness of a philosopher. Instead of interrupting, you slow down. Instead of crafting rebuttals in your head, you absorb. You begin to notice not only the words being spoken, but also the emotions, the pauses, and even the silences in between. This form of listening creates a bond. It tells the other person, "You matter. I value your perspective." And in return, it sharpens your own wisdom. The Stoics would say, speaking is a chance to repeat what you already know, but listening is the doorway to learning what you do not. When you choose to listen more, you transform every encounter into a classroom. Every person becomes a teacher, whether they are wiser than you or not, because each interaction reveals something new about human nature, the world, or yourself. This principle also teaches patience. Listening slows us down in a world that constantly urges us to speed up. It gives us the space to reflect before reacting, to respond with thought instead of emotion. And this patience is powerful. It diffuses conflict, builds trust, and prevents the chaos that often comes when we speak too quickly and regret our words later. Consider how listening impacts relationships. When someone feels genuinely heard, they also feel understood, valued, and respected. That simple act of presence can repair broken bonds, strengthen friendships, and create unity in workplaces and families. Listening deeply is more than good manners. It is the foundation of authentic human connection, and here lies the hidden Stoic wisdom. By listening, we are not just helping others, we are strengthening ourselves. We are training our mind to stay calm, to remain humble, and to resist the temptation of ego-driven speech. We are building resilience because a person who listens more learns more, and a person who learns more is better equipped to face life's inevitable challenges. So the first Stoic principle is not a suggestion. It is a practice, a daily discipline. Each time you choose to listen rather than dominate the conversation, you are cultivating wisdom. Each time you give space for another voice, you are shaping a stronger, more compassionate self. In the noisy chaos of modern life, remember this: the world does not need more people talking. It needs more people who can listen, truly, patiently, and deeply. That is where wisdom begins, and that is where Stoicism asks us to start. Principle 2. Turning loss into growth. Loss is one of the most universal human experiences. No matter who you are, where you live, or how much you achieve, you will encounter moments when something precious is taken from you. A loved one, a dream, an opportunity, a sense of certainty. The Stoics never denied this reality. In fact, they faced it head-on. For them, loss was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of transformation. Marcus Aurelius wrote often about change and impermanence. He reminded himself daily that everything he loved could be gone tomorrow, not to frighten himself, but to prepare, to cherish, and to strengthen his spirit. Epictetus, born a slave and stripped of freedom, understood better than most that we cannot control what is taken from us, but we can always control what we do next. That response, the ability to turn loss into growth, is where true resilience is born. Think about your own life. How many times have you seen loss as an ending, only to realize later that it was also the doorway to a new path? Perhaps a failed relationship made space for deeper love. Perhaps losing a job opened the door to a career you would never have pursued otherwise. Perhaps grief over someone's absence inspired you to live more fully in their memory. Loss, when reframed through the Stoic lens, becomes a teacher, sometimes harsh, but always honest. The Stoics would say, what we lose externally, we can often replace internally with strength, wisdom, and courage. While most people cling desperately to what is slipping away, Stoicism invites us to accept impermanence and find opportunity in change. This is not about pretending loss doesn't hurt. It does. But it is about refusing to let pain have the final word. Instead, we ask, what can this moment teach me? How can I use this to grow stronger, wiser, and more compassionate? Picture a forest after a wildfire. The flames destroy trees, burn away homes for animals, and leave behind a landscape that looks lifeless. Yet over time, new shoots begin to grow. The fire clears space for new life, nourishes the soil, and allows for a stronger, more diverse ecosystem. Loss in our lives works in much the same way. It clears what no longer serves us, making space for something we may never have imagined. Modern life often tells us to run from loss, to numb it, to cover it up with distractions. The Stoics instead tell us to confront it directly, to sit with the discomfort, to let ourselves feel grief fully, but also to rise from it with new clarity. This doesn't mean the pain disappears. It means we transform it into fuel. Loss can also deepen our empathy. When you have suffered, you understand the suffering of others. When you have felt emptiness, you are better equipped to offer compassion. In this way, loss doesn't just grow us individually, it strengthens the bonds of humanity. It reminds us that we are all fragile, all temporary, all in need of one another. The Stoic practice of amor fati, the love of fate, captures this idea perfectly. Instead of resisting what happens, we embrace it, even when it is painful, because we trust that it carries meaning. To love fate is to trust life's process, to say, even this, especially this, has something to teach me. So, turning loss into growth is not about avoiding grief, but about alchemizing it. It is about using the hardest moments of life as raw material for wisdom. Each setback becomes a stepping stone. Each ending becomes the seed of a beginning. When you face loss, Ask yourself, will I let this break me, or will I let it build me? That choice determines everything, and in that choice lies the heart of Stoicism, the ability to transform suffering into strength, emptiness into meaning, and endings into growth. Principle 3. Control what you can, release what you can't. One of the most liberating and powerful Stoic lessons is the clear distinction between what is within our control and what is not. Epictetus put it simply, some things are up to us, and some things are not. This insight, while straightforward, has the power to change the way we live, the way we suffer, and the way we experience peace. Think about how much energy we spend on things outside our control. The opinions of others, the outcome of elections, the economy, the weather, traffic, the unpredictable twists of fate. These things can frustrate us, anger us, or even break us when we cling to the illusion that we should be able to change them. But Stoicism cuts through this illusion. It tells us stop wasting your life wrestling with what you cannot influence. Direct your strength where it actually matters, your own thoughts, choices, and actions. This doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. Quite the opposite. It means becoming laser-focused on the one domain where you always have power, yourself. You can choose how to respond to adversity. You can decide how to act in moments of conflict. You can practice patience in the face of irritation, kindness in the face of cruelty, and courage in the face of fear. That freedom, the freedom of response, is the foundation of true inner strength. Consider this. A sailor cannot control the wind or the sea. Storms will come, winds will shift, waves will rise, but the sailor can control the sails, the rudder, and the decisions that keep the ship afloat. Life is no different. You cannot control external events, but you can steer your inner ship with wisdom, discipline, and clarity. This principle also invites us to examine the source of much of our anxiety. How often do we lie awake worrying about things completely beyond our influence? The opinions of strangers, the outcome of events already decided, the possibility of future problems that may never even occur. Stoicism teaches us to let those go. Worrying about them is like carrying a heavy bag of stones. It does nothing but exhaust you. When we stop clinging to what we cannot control, we create space for serenity. Suddenly, setbacks don't feel like personal attacks. They are simply part of the flow of life. Criticism doesn't sting as much because we know we cannot control what others think, only how we respond. Even loss and tragedy, as painful as they are, become more bearable when we accept that they are outside our command. This acceptance is not defeat. It is strength. And here is the hidden gift. The more we let go of externals, the more energy we have for what truly matters. Instead of wasting hours on complaints, we focus on action. Instead of drowning in frustration, we train our character. Instead of resisting reality, we adapt, grow, and move forward. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, often reminded himself that external events cannot harm the soul unless the soul consents. The world can take your possessions, your reputation, even your body, but it cannot touch your will, your values, or your inner freedom. That realm is yours alone, so control what you can, your judgments, your choices, your actions. Release what you can't. The tides of fortune, the whims of others, the inevitability of change. When you live by this principle, you stop being a slave to circumstance and become the master of your own mind. The next time life throws something difficult at you, pause and ask, is this within my control or not? If it is, take wise action. If it isn't, release it. In that simple act lies freedom, resilience, and peace. Principle 4. The power of perspective life is not defined by what happens to us. It is defined by how we see what happens. The Stoics insisted that events themselves are neutral. It is our interpretation, our perspective, that shapes whether something feels like a blessing, a curse, or simply a fact of existence. Marcus Aurelius captured this truth in his Meditations. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This is one of the most radical freedoms we possess, the ability to reframe. Think about a rainstorm. To some, it is a ruined day, an inconvenience, a reason for complaint. To a farmer, it is life itself, nourishment for crops. The storm is the same, only the perspective changes. In life, we are constantly encountering our own storms. A failed project, a betrayal, an illness, a delay. We can call these disasters, or we can look at them as teachers. Each challenge carries a lesson, but only if we are willing to adjust our perspective. This principle is not about pretending that pain doesn't exist. Stoicism never asks us to deny reality. If you lose someone you love, the grief is real. If you face hardship, the struggle is undeniable. But even in grief and hardship, there are two layers: the event itself and the story we tell ourselves about it. While we may not control the first, we have immense influence over the second. The Stoics believed that suffering multiplies when we add judgment to reality. This shouldn't have happened. This is unfair. This ruins everything. Those thoughts deepen the wound. But if we can say instead, this is difficult, yes, but I will face it. I will learn from it. I will endure. Then the burden becomes lighter. Consider the example of prisoners of war who survived years of captivity. Many of them said that what kept them alive was perspective, the belief that their suffering could give meaning, that their endurance could inspire, that even in chains they still had control over their spirit. This is the same wisdom the Stoics practiced, finding strength not in the absence of difficulty, but in the interpretation of it. Perspective also shapes how we view success. One person can have everything: wealth, recognition, opportunity, and still feel miserable because they focus only on what they lack. Another person may have very little yet live with deep joy because they focus on gratitude for what they do have. The external facts may be the same, but the internal lens makes all the difference. Think of life as a canvas. Events are the colors splashed across it, sometimes bright, sometimes dark. Perspective is the brush in your hand. You decide how to arrange those colors into meaning, whether to paint chaos or beauty. The power of perspective is also a shield against despair. When setbacks occur, we can say, perhaps this is not a failure, but a redirection. When criticism comes, we can ask, is there truth here I can use, or is this noise I can ignore? When hardship strikes, we can remind ourselves, this is temporary and I am stronger than I think. By practicing this principle daily, we build resilience. Each time life tests us, we can pause and step back. What story am I telling myself about this? Is there another way to see it? One that empowers instead of weakens me? This small act of reframing can transform despair into determination, frustration into patience, and loss into growth. So remember, the world does not hand you meaning. You create it. Perspective is not just how you look at life. It is the lens that shapes the entire experience of being alive. Change your lens, and you change your life. Principle 5. Progress over perfection. One of the greatest traps in life is the illusion of perfection. We imagine that one day we will be flawless, free from mistakes, free from flaws, free from failure. And because of this illusion, we often delay, hesitate, or abandon the journey altogether. The Stoics knew this danger well, and they offered a liberating alternative. Focus not on perfection, but on progress. Seneca once wrote, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." The Stoics believed that growth is not about reaching some impossible state of perfection, but about taking steady steps forward, becoming a little wiser, a little stronger, a little more disciplined each day. Think about the way we learn any skill. A child does not learn to walk in a single attempt. They fall, stumble, rise, and try again. Each fall is not a failure, but part of the process. In the same way, when you set out to build resilience, to live with greater calm, or to act with virtue, you will stumble. You may lose your temper. You may give in to distraction. You may feel overwhelmed. The Stoics remind us this is not proof of weakness. This is the evidence of being human. What matters is not the stumble itself, but the fact that you rise again and continue. Progress over perfection shifts the focus from unrealistic expectations to daily effort. Instead of asking, "Am I perfect yet?" we ask, "Am I moving in the right direction?" This mindset removes the heavy weight of self-criticism and replaces it with encouragement. Even one small act of self-control, even one mindful response instead of an outburst, even one moment of gratitude in the face of hardship, all of these are victories on the path of progress. Consider an archer practicing with a bow. No archer hits the bullseye every time. Some shots miss wildly. But with each attempt, the archer adjusts, learns, and refines their aim. Life works in the same way. Every day gives us the chance to practice our aim, not toward perfection, but toward improvement. This principle also protects us from paralysis. Many people wait for the perfect moment to begin, to start a project, to change a habit, to chase a dream. But as the Stoics would say, the perfect moment does not exist. There is only now, and by taking imperfect action today, you move closer to your goal than endless hesitation ever will. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. This is the spirit of progress. Do not wait until you have all the answers. Begin where you are with what you have and take the next right step. Over time, those steps accumulate into strength, wisdom, and character. Perfection is an illusion, but progress is real. Perfection paralyzes, but progress empowers. The pursuit of perfection often leads to frustration, self-doubt, and endless comparison. But the pursuit of progress builds confidence, resilience, and momentum. Imagine climbing a mountain. If you look only at the peak, the journey seems overwhelming, impossible. But if you focus on the next step, and then the next, you find yourself steadily rising. One day you look back and realize how far you've come. That is the gift of progress. So the Stoics encourage us to embrace imperfection, to see mistakes not as failures, but as lessons, to celebrate small victories as milestones on a larger journey, and to measure success not by whether we've reached perfection, but by whether we are becoming a little better, a little stronger, a little wiser each day. Perfection is a mirage. It vanishes the closer you try to get. Progress is the real path, solid, steady, and transformative. Choose progress, and you will never stop growing. Principle 6. Real wealth is gratitude. The sixth Stoic principle goes deeper than gold, status, or possessions. True wealth is a grateful heart. In a world consumed by consumerism and comparison, it's easy to believe happiness lies in the next purchase, the next upgrade, the next achievement. Society whispers that if only you had more money, more recognition, more things, then you would finally be fulfilled. But the Stoics, especially Epictetus, warned us of this endless trap. The more you crave, the emptier you feel. The cycle never ends. Gratitude is the antidote. It breaks the chains of constant desire and reminds us that much of what we already have is more valuable than we realize. When we pause to appreciate our health, our relationships, our breath, our freedom to think, to act, to love, we see that wealth is already present. Gratitude transforms ordinary days into blessings and small moments into treasures. Consider the image of two people. One is a millionaire who owns everything but still complains daily about what's missing. The other has modest means, yet wakes each morning grateful for life itself, for the laughter of friends, for the beauty of nature. Who is truly rich? The answer is clear. Wealth is not what you possess, but how you perceive. Gratitude rewires perception from scarcity to abundance. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself to thank life, to notice the sunrise, the simple act of waking up, the opportunity to serve others. Seneca, too, said that gratitude is not only the greatest virtue, but the parent of all others. For when you are grateful, anger softens, envy disappears, and kindness grows. Gratitude is the soil from which all other virtues can flourish. This principle does not suggest that we stop striving or abandon ambition. The Stoics were builders, leaders, teachers. They achieved much, but they achieved while being grounded in appreciation. Gratitude ensures that the pursuit of goals does not become slavery to desire. It allows us to enjoy the journey, not just the destination. Think of life as a feast. Gratitude teaches you to savor what is already on your plate instead of always demanding more dishes. In doing so, you actually enjoy the richness of the present moment rather than starving for what hasn't arrived. Another hidden gift of gratitude is resilience. When hardship strikes, a grateful person still finds light. They may lose possessions, but they still hold on to the blessing of life itself. They may face difficulties, but gratitude reminds them of what remains: lessons, strength, courage. Because their joy is not built on fragile externals, it cannot be easily destroyed. In modern science, we now see what the Stoics knew thousands of years ago. Gratitude strengthens mental health, reduces anxiety, and increases life satisfaction. But beyond the research, the Stoics taught gratitude as a moral practice, a deliberate daily choice to honor life as it is, not as we wish it to be. So how can you live this principle? Begin simply. Each morning, name 3 things you are grateful for. Not abstract ideas, but real specifics. A friend's kindness, the warmth of sunlight, the chance to improve yourself. Throughout the day, pause and acknowledge the small gifts often ignored. Clean water, a shared smile, the ability to breathe. Over time, this practice transforms the way you experience existence. Gratitude is the currency of Stoicism. It costs nothing, yet it enriches you more than any treasure. It builds a fortress of joy within you that no loss can fully take away. And when practiced consistently, it allows you to say, no matter the circumstance, I already have enough, and because of that, I am truly rich. So remember, real wealth is not stored in banks, cars, or houses. It is stored in the heart. A grateful heart will never feel poor. Principle 7. Embracing mortality and living fully. The 7th Stoic principle asks us to face one of life's greatest realities: death, not with fear, but with clarity. The Stoics called this practice memento mori. Remember, you must die. At first, it may sound dark or unsettling, but in truth, this reflection is not about despair. It is about freedom. The Stoics understood that reflecting on mortality sharpens our awareness of what truly matters. When we accept the fragility of life, we stop wasting time on trivial concerns and begin to live with urgency, purpose, and gratitude. Death is the great equalizer. It spares no one, whether emperor or servant. And instead of denying it, the Stoics embraced it as a guide for how to live well. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the vast Roman Empire, reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." Far from making him gloomy, this awareness gave him focus. It stripped away distractions and pushed him to act with virtue and compassion, knowing that every moment could be his last. Think about how easily we delay life. We say we'll spend more time with loved ones when things slow down. We'll pursue a dream someday. We'll say the words of love or forgiveness later. But later is never guaranteed. Memento mori cuts through this illusion and calls us to act now. When you realize that life is short, conversations with friends feel more precious. The laughter of children becomes a gift. Even simple acts like sharing a meal or watching the sunrise take on deeper meaning. You begin to measure life not by its length, but by its depth. This principle also fuels courage. Fear loses its grip when you remember that death comes for all. Why hold back from speaking your truth, chasing your vision, or living authentically when in the end, we all meet the same fate? As Seneca said, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. Mortality is not an enemy. It is a teacher urging us to spend our limited time wisely. Embracing death also transforms how we handle hardship. If we know that everything is temporary, including suffering, we can endure with greater strength. Pain, disappointment, and even failure lose their power when we realize they too will pass. Mortality is the reminder that life itself is fleeting, and therefore, all difficulties are fleeting as well. But perhaps the most powerful gift of this principle is compassion. When we remember that everyone shares the same fate, we become gentler with others. Petty conflicts lose their importance. Envy dissolves. Cruelty seems absurd. What sense does it make to waste time in hatred when life is so short? Instead, we are inspired to love more deeply, forgive more quickly, and give more freely. In practice, living with this awareness might mean pausing before bed and reflecting. If this were my last day, did I live in alignment with my values? Did I speak kindness, Did I waste time on what matters least, or did I pour myself into what matters most? This nightly reflection keeps us aligned, focused, and awake to the beauty of life. The Stoics remind us, to meditate on death is to celebrate life. It is to stop drifting and start living deliberately, not recklessly but with purpose, not fearfully but with gratitude. So let this principle anchor you. Let the reality of mortality inspire you to live fully today, to cherish connections, to pursue what is meaningful, to serve others, and to leave behind a memory not of wealth or titles but of love, wisdom, and courage. For when we live each day as if it could be our last, we do not fear death. Instead, we learn how to truly live. Principle 8. Detachment from material things. Eighth Stoic principle carries a lesson that feels more urgent today than perhaps at any other time in history. Detach yourself from material possessions and external events if you want true freedom. This principle, drawn from the meditations of Marcus Aurelius, reminds us that real wealth, peace, and happiness are not found in what we own, but in how we think and how we live. Detachment does not mean rejecting all material comforts or living in poverty. It means not allowing your happiness to be enslaved by them. Think about how often stress, envy, or frustration comes from things outside your control. The promotion you didn't get, the expensive gadget you can't afford, the lifestyle someone else flaunts online. These attachments pull us into an endless loop of desire, comparison, and disappointment. The Stoics understood that if your peace depends on possessions or status, then your peace can be stolen the moment those things vanish. True freedom is internal. It begins when you stop letting your joy rise and fall with the market, the trends, or the opinions of others. Detachment gives you space. Space to breathe, space to live authentically, space to build a life based on values instead of vanity. Marcus Aurelius himself, though an emperor surrounded by immense wealth and power, constantly reminded himself that all these things were fleeting. Palaces crumble, gold tarnishes. Crowds cheer today and abandon you tomorrow. If you tie your identity to what fades, you will fade with it. But if you anchor yourself to inner character, gratitude, and wisdom, you remain strong no matter what changes around you. Practicing detachment doesn't mean abandoning ambition or refusing to enjoy life's pleasures. It means enjoying them without being owned by them. Use money without being obsessed with money. Achieve goals without letting your entire worth depend on outcomes. Own possessions, but don't let possessions own you. Detachment also sharpens clarity. When you are not constantly chasing more, you begin to see what truly matters. Relationships, inner growth, contribution, and service. Your time and energy shift from empty pursuits to meaningful projects, from proving yourself to others to living in harmony with yourself. Imagine standing in a room full of treasures. Most people grasp desperately, afraid to lose them. The Stoic, however, walks calmly, appreciating what is there but ready to let go if needed. That quiet readiness is not weakness, it is strength. It is the unshakable calm of someone who knows that their happiness comes from within, not from shiny distractions. The eighth Stoic principle is a gentle but powerful reminder. The less you cling, the freer you become. By loosening your grip on material things and external outcomes, you reclaim your energy, protect your peace of mind, and open yourself to a life of deeper meaning. Principle 9. Mastering emotions and inner calm. The 10th Stoic principle invites us to step into one of the greatest powers a human being can ever develop, the ability to remain calm and steady when storms rage within and around us. Life is full of moments that provoke anger, anxiety, fear, or sadness. People will insult us, events will not unfold as planned, and circumstances will often feel overwhelming. The Stoics never denied these realities. They acknowledged that emotions are part of our human nature. What they taught, however, is that we are not slaves to our emotions. We may not always choose what feelings arise in the moment, but we always choose how to respond to them. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often reminded his students that anger is not only useless, but also destructive. To lose control of our temper is to hand our power over to circumstances. Similarly, Epictetus urged his students to pause before reacting, teaching that no event has the power to disturb us until we give it permission. In other words, it is not the insult that harms us, but our decision to let it wound us. So how do we master our emotions without suppressing them? The Stoics offered several practices. First, self-awareness. Notice the feeling as it arises: irritation, worry, envy, or fear. Instead of judging yourself for having it, simply recognize it. Acknowledge, "I am feeling anger," or "I sense anxiety building." This moment of awareness creates a gap between the stimulus and your reaction, giving you the space to choose wisely instead of reacting blindly. Second, breath and presence. The Stoics practiced a kind of mindfulness long before the modern world gave it that name. They knew that steady, calm breathing restores balance to both body and mind. When emotions flare, pause and take slow, deliberate breaths. This simple act quiets the body's stress response and clears the mind. Third, reframing perspective. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that most things are indifferent, neither good nor bad by themselves, but only given meaning by our interpretation. If someone insults you, does that truly damage your character or only reveal something about theirs? If plans are disrupted, does that ruin your life or simply redirect you to a different path? Reframing allows us to see events with less drama and more clarity. Fourth, training for adversity. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort to strengthen emotional resilience. They would go without luxuries, expose themselves to the cold, or imagine worst-case scenarios. By doing so, they taught their minds not to panic when life delivered hardship. If you can calmly face discomfort by choice, you are far better prepared when discomfort arrives uninvited. Mastering emotions does not mean becoming cold, robotic, or unfeeling. The Stoics valued compassion, love, joy, and kindness. What they rejected was being ruled by destructive emotions that cloud judgment and lead us away from virtue. The goal is not suppression, but sovereignty, to feel emotions without being consumed by them. Imagine two people facing the same crisis: a sudden loss, a betrayal, or a public insult. One reacts with rage, despair, or panic, worsening the situation and exhausting themselves. The other acknowledges the pain but remains composed, acting with patience and clarity. Both felt the initial emotion, but only one mastered it. Which life would you rather live? The 10th Stoic principle reminds us, you cannot control the waves, but you can learn to surf them. By cultivating self-awareness, steady breathing, perspective, and resilience, you can transform emotional chaos into inner calm. In that calm lies strength, clarity, and freedom. Principle 10. Moderation and balance. The 11th Stoic principle centers on moderation, the art of living in balance. In a world that constantly tempts us toward excess in eating, drinking, working, spending, or even chasing pleasure, Stoicism calls us back to a path of temperance and self-control. Epictetus and other Stoic teachers warned that extremes are dangerous because they enslave us. Too much indulgence leads to weakness, while too much deprivation leads to misery. True wisdom lies not in abandoning life's pleasures nor in drowning in them, but in learning to use them with measure and discipline. Think of moderation as the middle path, not denial, not overindulgence, but balance. The Stoics understood that desires are natural, but when desires govern us, we lose freedom. A person who cannot resist overeating is no longer in charge of their body. A person addicted to luxury is no longer in charge of their happiness. In contrast, the person who practices moderation can enjoy life's pleasures without being mastered by them. Self-discipline is the foundation of this principle. Seneca once wrote that the greatest freedom comes from mastery over oneself. To practice moderation means to pause before giving in to every impulse, to question whether a desire serves your long-term well-being or simply feeds a momentary craving. Each act of temperance strengthens your willpower, like a muscle that grows stronger through repeated use. Moderation also applies beyond physical pleasures. It governs our ambitions, our speech, our use of time. An unrestrained drive for success can lead to burnout, just as excessive laziness leads to stagnation. Speaking too much can create conflict, while silence at the wrong time can breed misunderstanding. The Stoics' challenge is to seek harmony in all things, to act with measure, not excess. Consider how this principle plays out in everyday life. Eating with moderation allows you to enjoy food without falling into guilt or discomfort. Spending in moderation allows you to appreciate what you buy without drowning in debt. Working in moderation allows you to achieve without sacrificing your health or relationships. Even virtues, when pushed to extremes, can become vices. Courage without moderation becomes recklessness. Generosity without moderation becomes wastefulness. Balance brings freedom. When you are not pulled to either extreme, you walk firmly on steady ground. This does not mean a life of blandness or boredom, but rather a life of stability and resilience. Imagine a ship. If it leans too far in one direction, it risks sinking. But when balanced, it can sail smoothly even through rough waters. The Stoics saw temperance as one of the 4 cardinal virtues, alongside wisdom, courage, and justice. Without moderation, the other virtues falter. Wisdom without moderation can turn into arrogance. Courage without moderation can become recklessness. Justice without moderation can harden into cruelty. Temperance is the guiding hand that keeps virtue whole. Moderation is not about denying joy. It is about enjoying more deeply. When you practice restraint, even small pleasures gain intensity. A simple meal tastes better when you are not stuffed with excess. A quiet evening feels more precious when it is not drowned in endless stimulation. By limiting excess, we rediscover gratitude. The 11th Stoic principle teaches us that the happiest life is not the one filled with extremes, but the one balanced with harmony and discipline. When we live with moderation, we free ourselves from the tyranny of desire, avoid the suffering of excess, and walk a path of clarity, peace, and strength. Principle 11. Living with honesty and authenticity. The 12th Stoic principle is about honesty, not just in words, but in the way we live. For the Stoics, authenticity was not optional. It was the very foundation of a good life. To live dishonestly is to live in conflict with yourself. To live authentically is to live with peace. Seneca emphasized that integrity is one of the highest forms of wisdom. It means aligning your actions with your values, rather than bending your values to fit convenience, fear, or the expectations of others. Too often, people sacrifice truth to gain approval or status. They wear masks, play roles, and betray themselves in pursuit of praise. But the Stoics taught that the price of dishonesty is far greater than the fleeting rewards it might bring. Living with honesty requires courage. It means standing firm in your convictions even when it costs you comfort or popularity. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily to remain true to his principles despite the corruption and politics of Rome. He understood that the only approval that truly matters is the approval of one's own conscience. But honesty is not only about telling the truth, it is about being the truth. It is choosing to live without pretense, without constant performance, without the exhausting effort of trying to be someone you are not. Authenticity frees you from comparison because you are no longer chasing an image. You are simply living as yourself. Authenticity also deepens human connection. When you are honest, people sense it. They trust you because they know you are not hiding behind manipulation or false charm. Real relationships, whether friendships, partnerships, or family bonds, can only flourish on the foundation of trust. Lies may build temporary bridges, but truth builds bridges that endure. This principle does not mean bluntness or cruelty. Stoic honesty is guided by wisdom and kindness. It is possible to speak the truth without wounding, to live authentically without arrogance. The goal is not to use honesty as a weapon, but as a light that reveals who you truly are, and a light that guides others to feel safe being themselves as well. To live dishonestly, on the other hand, is to divide yourself. You say one thing but feel another. You act one way in public but another in private. This inner conflict erodes peace. The Stoics would call it slavery. Slavery to fear, to greed, to the opinions of others. Authentic living breaks these chains. Consider this. A dishonest person may gain riches, but will live in fear of exposure. A dishonest leader may gain followers, but will always fear betrayal. A dishonest life may look full on the outside, but will feel empty on the inside. The Stoics understood that true freedom comes from having nothing to hide. Authenticity also strengthens resilience. When you live honestly, challenges cannot shake you as easily, because your identity does not depend on masks or illusions. Even in hardship, you remain yourself. and that constancy is power. The 12th Stoic principle reminds us that honesty is not just a virtue, it is a way of living. To be real, to be true, to live in harmony with your values, is to walk a path of inner peace and outer strength. So remember, the world may tempt you to pretend, to bend, to hide. But the Stoic way is to live with authenticity. And when you do, you will find that truth brings not only respect from others, but a deeper respect for yourself. Principle 12. Humility in learning. The 13th Stoic principle is a call to humility, especially when it comes to learning and growth. The Stoics believed that arrogance is the enemy of wisdom, while humility is the doorway to endless discovery. No matter how much we think we know, the truth is that our understanding is limited, fragile, and always evolving. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful emperors in history, constantly reminded himself to remain a student of life. He knew that real strength lies not in pretending to know everything, but in remaining open to new insights, perspectives, and corrections. Humility in learning begins with acknowledging that we are fallible. We make mistakes, we misjudge, we hold on to assumptions that later prove wrong. Instead of clinging to pride, the Stoics teach us to see mistakes as opportunities. Every failure is a lesson in disguise. Every correction is a step toward greater clarity. To resist learning is to remain stuck. To embrace it is to grow stronger. Seneca advised his students to value every person as a teacher. Everyone we meet has something to offer, a perspective, an experience, an example. Sometimes the lesson comes from wisdom, sometimes from error. But if you are humble, you can learn from both. The wise man is not the one who claims to know all things, but the one who is always ready to learn from anyone. Humility also guards us against arrogance, which blinds us to truth. When we are convinced that we already know enough, we close the door to improvement. But life is constantly changing. New challenges demand new skills, new perspectives demand open minds. Humility keeps us adaptable, resilient, and teachable. Imagine a cup already full. Nothing more can be poured into it. But if the cup is half empty, it can receive more. Humility keeps your cup open. It makes room for fresh insights that can transform your understanding of the world and of yourself. This principle also shapes how we respond to criticism. Instead of reacting with defensiveness, humility allows us to ask, what truth can I find here? How can this help me grow? Even harsh words can be useful when filtered through the lens of humility. They either reveal something we need to change or remind us of the strength of staying true to ourselves. Humility in learning also deepens relationships. When we listen more than we speak, when we value the voices of others, we not only gain wisdom but also build trust. People are drawn to those who are willing to learn, because humility creates space for mutual respect. Finally, humility protects us from despair. When we stumble, instead of saying, I am a failure, humility reminds us, I am still learning. This mindset turns setbacks into stepping stones and keeps us moving forward with patience and hope. The 13th Stoic principle is clear. Be humble in your learning. See yourself as a lifelong student in the school of life. No matter your age, status, or achievements, there is always more to discover. Humility keeps your mind open, your spirit flexible, and your path full of growth. So remember, wisdom is not about gathering facts to appear knowledgeable. True wisdom is the quiet, steady willingness to keep learning from experience, from others, and from life itself. Principle 13. Personal responsibility and the power of influences. The 14th Stoic principle emphasizes two truths that shape the course of our lives. We are responsible for the choices we make, and the people we surround ourselves with profoundly influence who we become. The Stoics never shied away from personal responsibility. Epictetus often reminded his students that freedom begins when you recognize that your life is yours to shape. You may not control the circumstances of your birth, the trials you face, or the behavior of others, but you always control your attitude, your actions, and the direction you choose to take. Responsibility in Stoicism is not a burden, but a source of empowerment. It means that you are not a victim of fate, but an active participant in your own destiny. This principle challenges us to stop blaming external forces for the state of our lives. Too often, we point to circumstances, luck, or other people as the reason we are unhappy, unfulfilled, or stagnant. But the Stoics teach that progress begins the moment we own our role in shaping our experiences. Did we make choices that led us here? Have we neglected to act where we could have? Have we given away our power by waiting for someone else to fix our problems? These questions demand honesty, and honesty demands responsibility. But responsibility alone is not enough. The Stoics also understood the immense power of influences. The people we allow into our lives, friends, colleagues, mentors, shape our habits, our values, and even our vision of what is possible. As Seneca wrote, associate with people who are likely to improve you. If you walk with the wise, you grow wiser. If you surround yourself with the careless, you risk drifting into carelessness yourself. Think of your environment as fertile soil. Whatever seeds are planted, there will grow. If the soil is full of weeds, weeds will spread. If it is nourished with good seeds, it will flourish with abundance. Likewise, if your daily circle encourages discipline, virtue, and growth, you will naturally rise. But if it encourages laziness, cynicism, or mediocrity, your spirit will wither. This does not mean avoiding people who struggle. Stoicism is not about arrogance or judgment. It means being discerning about who you allow to shape your mindset. It means seeking mentors who inspire, friends who uplift, and communities that encourage your best self. In the same way, it means being the kind of influence that uplifts others. Responsibility is not just about what you take in, but also about what you give out. Ultimately, this principle combines self-mastery with community. You are responsible for your choices, but you are also responsible for the company you keep. Together, these forces can either trap you in cycles of weakness or lift you toward a life of virtue and strength. So, the 14th Stoic principle calls you to live awake, own your life. Take responsibility for your actions and choose wisely the voices you allow to echo in your mind. By doing so, you not only strengthen yourself but also become a source of light and inspiration to others. Principle 14. The treasure of true friendship. Stoic philosophy places great value on relationships, and at the heart of these is the treasure of true friendship. Unlike casual connections or superficial acquaintances, true friendship is built on honesty, loyalty, and a shared commitment to virtue. The Stoics remind us that while wealth, fame, or status can vanish in an instant, the bonds of genuine friendship are enduring, a source of comfort, support, and inspiration through every stage of life. True friendship is not based on what we can gain from others, but on mutual respect and goodwill. Seneca wrote that a true friend is another self, someone who mirrors our values and helps us become better. Such friendships are rare, but when cultivated, they provide a foundation stronger than any material possession. They offer a sense of belonging that is rooted in character, not convenience. The Stoics also emphasize that friendship is tested in hardship. Fair-weather friends may disappear when difficulties arise, but true friends remain. They stand beside us when life is heavy, offering strength when we falter and wisdom when we feel lost. Their presence reminds us that we do not have to carry our burdens alone. In this way, friendship becomes not only emotional support, but also a training ground for practicing the Stoic virtues of patience, compassion, and loyalty at the same time. Being a true friend requires effort and responsibility. It calls us to listen with empathy, to give without expecting reward, and to encourage one another toward living in alignment with virtue. Friendship is not just about sharing joy, but also about offering honest guidance when needed. A true friend does not flatter us or hide the truth, but speaks with courage and care, even when their words are difficult to hear. In this sense, friendship is both comforting and challenging, a partnership in growth. Friendship also acts as a safeguard against the loneliness of life's journey. The Stoics taught self-reliance and inner strength, but they never suggested we isolate ourselves from others. Humans are social beings by nature, designed to live in community. True friends help us cultivate this natural part of ourselves, allowing us to give and receive love in ways that nourish the soul. Through them, we learn humility, generosity, and the beauty of shared humanity. Ultimately, the treasure of true friendship lies not in its quantity, but its quality. Even one or two genuine friends can enrich life immeasurably, offering a bond that time and hardship cannot erode. Such relationships remind us that while we cannot control everything in the world, we can choose the kind of people we surround ourselves with. And by choosing well, we shape not only our happiness, but also our character. This Stoic principle encourages us to value and nurture the friendships that uplift us, to be grateful for those who walk beside us, and to embody the qualities of a true friend ourselves. For in the end, friendships rooted in virtue are among life's greatest treasures, gifts that endure long after possessions fade and circumstances change. Principle 15. Turning adversity into strength. Human life is marked by struggle. Whether it comes through personal loss, workplace stress, emotional upheaval, or daily frustrations, challenges are inevitable. But the Stoics remind us that these difficulties are not the end of the road. They are the training ground for growth. What matters most is not the problems themselves, but how we choose to respond. Every action we take, whether consciously or unconsciously, is a decision. Each response is an opportunity, either to stagnate in suffering or to rise into strength and wisdom. The 15th Stoic principle urges us to become more deliberate, to pause before reacting, and to choose wisely. In that pause, clarity emerges, allowing us to see beyond the surface of the problem and recognize the hidden lesson within it. Adversity is not meant to crush us. It is meant to shape us. Meeting challenges with courage and hope strengthens our character and transforms obstacles into stepping stones. Rather than drowning in negative emotions, we can view difficulties as invitations to expand our resilience. Even in moments of hardship, we can ask ourselves, what can I learn here? How can this make me stronger? The Stoics also remind us that resilience does not mean facing everything alone. Seeking help from trusted friends, loved ones, or wise mentors is not weakness, it is wisdom. Others can offer fresh perspectives, encouragement, and practical guidance that we may not see when blinded by pain. By allowing support into our lives, we cultivate a stronger foundation for facing challenges. Over time, every conscious response to difficulty reshapes us. We grow into individuals who are less reactive, more composed, and deeply grounded in wisdom. With each trial, our capacity for courage and self-mastery expands. And as we strengthen ourselves, we inspire others to do the same. This is the essence of Principle 15. Adversity is not an enemy to be feared, but a teacher to be embraced. When we meet life's storms with awareness, knowledge, and hope, we transform suffering into strength and challenges into stepping stones toward a richer, more purposeful future. Principle 16. Practice daily reflection. The Stoics placed immense value on the practice of self-examination. To them, reflection was not an occasional act reserved for moments of crisis, but a daily discipline that shaped their entire way of life. They understood that self-awareness is the foundation of wisdom, and without regular reflection, we risk drifting aimlessly through life, repeating the same mistakes and failing to grow. When you reflect daily, you give yourself the chance to pause and take stock of your actions, your choices, and your thoughts. You begin to see patterns, where you are improving, where you are stumbling, and where you need to apply more effort. This practice creates clarity. It allows you to correct your course before you stray too far, and it strengthens your alignment with the values you claim to live by. Daily reflection is not about self-condemnation or harsh judgment. The Stoics did not encourage endless guilt or regret. Instead, they advocated honest observation, a calm and truthful look at the day's events. What did I do well? Where did I fail to live up to my principles? How can I do better tomorrow? In these questions lies the blueprint for growth. Seneca himself described how, each night, he would review his day in detail, his words, his deeds, his thoughts. This nightly inventory was his way of keeping his soul accountable, of ensuring that progress was being made, and that mistakes were not repeated in vain. By examining his day, he transformed life's ordinary moments into lessons of wisdom. The value of this practice extends far beyond correcting errors. Reflection deepens self-knowledge. It strengthens discipline by keeping you mindful of your goals and your progress toward them. It nurtures resilience because you begin to view challenges not as failures, but as opportunities to test and refine your character. It creates humility because you are constantly reminded that you are a work in progress, always capable of improvement, never complete. Through daily reflection, you also gain greater control over your reactions. Instead of being enslaved by habit or impulse, you learn to act with intention. You stop seeing yourself as a fixed, unchanging being and begin to understand yourself as someone always in motion, someone capable of growth, transformation, and renewal. The Stoics believed that every day is a fresh opportunity. Reflection ensures that you do not waste that opportunity. Each morning, you can begin anew, informed by the lessons of yesterday and strengthened by the vision of who you want to become. This discipline keeps you rooted in your values and prevents you from being swept away by passing whims or temptations. So remember, daily reflection is not a burden, but a gift. It is the mirror that reveals both your strengths and your weaknesses, the compass that guides you back when you wander, and the teacher that helps you grow into the person you aspire to be. Make it a daily ritual, and your life will steadily take the shape of wisdom, resilience, and lasting fulfillment. Principle 17. Acceptance without resistance. Acceptance does not mean giving up or being passive. It is not about surrendering your will or allowing yourself to be trampled by circumstances. Rather, acceptance means seeing life as it truly is, clearly and rationally, without allowing events to dominate your emotions or disturb your inner peace. When we accept what we cannot change, we release the tight grip of resistance, the stress, and the suffering that come from fighting against reality. In this release, we discover flexibility, creativity, and a calmer approach to life's challenges. This principle is not about complacency, it is about wisdom. To accept does not mean to sit idly by, but to understand the boundary between what lies within our power and what lies beyond it. When we cease wasting energy on what cannot be controlled, we regain the strength to focus on what we can control: our choices, our actions, and our attitudes. In this way, acceptance becomes a powerful act of liberation. Mindfulness and meditation often go hand in hand with the practice of acceptance. These disciplines train us to remain present, to watch our thoughts and emotions arise without judgment, and to meet them with kindness. By observing our inner responses in this way, we loosen their hold over us. We stop identifying with every passing fear, every flash of anger, or every wave of sadness. Instead, we view them with compassion and patience, letting them pass without being enslaved. This perspective makes it easier to let go and return to balance. When we become more aware of and accepting of what we cannot change, we become more adaptable. We no longer waste energy on resentment or frustration. Instead, we handle challenges with focus, calmness, and resilience. Life will never stop presenting difficulties, but acceptance softens their impact. It allows us to meet them with clarity, to bend without breaking, and to respond with greater creativity and wisdom. Through acceptance, we also prepare ourselves to face uncertainty. The future is unpredictable and adversity is unavoidable. But when we practice letting go of resistance, we train ourselves to remain centered no matter what storms arrive. This does not mean life becomes easy. It means that we become stronger, calmer, and more capable of meeting life as it is. At its heart, acceptance is the key to peace. It creates balance in our daily lives, helps us endure hardship with dignity, and keeps us aligned with the present moment instead of being dragged into regret over the past or fear of the future. Even when circumstances are truly painful, acceptance offers us the gift of serenity. It allows us to see life with clarity, to act wisely where we can, and to rest peacefully where we cannot. The Stoics remind us that acceptance is not weakness, it is strength. It is the courage to stop fighting unwinnable battles, the maturity to see reality without illusion, and the wisdom to let go of what lies beyond our grasp. By practicing acceptance without resistance, we invite peace, resilience, and balance into our lives, even in the darkest of times. Principle 18. Resilience and flexibility in hardship. The 18th principle is a powerful reminder that even in the darkest of times, there are still opportunities to grow, improve, and discover hidden strengths within ourselves. Life is never free of adversity. Hardships, setbacks, and unexpected trials are woven into the human experience. But this principle urges us to adopt a perspective that transforms hardship from something to be feared into something that can serve as a stepping stone to growth and deeper wisdom. Resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from adversity without being broken by it. Flexibility is the ability to adapt to new conditions, to shift strategies, and to flow with life's changes instead of rigidly resisting them. Together, these two qualities form the foundation of strength in hardship. When we face difficulties with resilience and flexibility, we train ourselves to bend rather than break, to adjust instead of shattering under pressure. In this way, hardship becomes a teacher rather than a destroyer. To live this principle, we must make a conscious shift in perspective. Instead of focusing on what has gone wrong, we look for what can be learned. Instead of asking, "Why me?" we ask, "What lesson lies here? How can this experience make me stronger, wiser, and more compassionate?" Every struggle carries within it the seed of growth. When we meet adversity with courage and determination, we sharpen our skills, broaden our perspectives, and deepen our character. Resilience is not built in a single moment. It is cultivated over time through repeated encounters with hardship. Each time we rise after a fall, each time we endure after disappointment, our inner strength expands. This principle encourages us not only to endure challenges, but also to embrace them as opportunities for self-discovery. Hardship reveals to us what we are capable of, showing us strengths we never knew we had. Flexibility complements resilience by teaching us to remain adaptable. Life rarely unfolds according to our plans, and those who cling stubbornly to a single path are easily broken when change inevitably arrives. But when we practice flexibility, we learn to adjust our expectations, to seek new routes, and to treat change not as a threat, but as an ally. Adapting in this way allows us to continue moving forward, even when obstacles force us to change direction. This principle also emphasizes the importance of drawing inspiration and strength from others who have endured adversity. Human beings are not meant to walk through suffering alone. By sharing our struggles and the lessons we've learned, we create a network of support and encouragement that benefits everyone. Stories of resilience remind us that hardship is survivable, that pain can lead to growth, and that no trial lasts forever. When we open ourselves to community, we not only gain strength for ourselves, but also give strength to others. Another vital aspect of resilience in hardship is gratitude. By consciously looking for the good, even in painful circumstances, we develop a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. Gratitude shifts our focus away from what has been lost toward what remains. The lessons learned, the connections strengthened, and the opportunities hidden within difficulty. When we practice gratitude during hardship, we cultivate a mindset that is not easily shaken, a perspective that sees possibility where others see only despair. This principle reminds us that challenges are not roadblocks, but stepping stones. Each struggle we endure is a chance to grow into a wiser, more compassionate, and more courageous version of ourselves. By approaching life with resilience, we become unshakable. By practicing flexibility, we remain open to change and ready for transformation. And by combining both, we develop a powerful mindset that can carry us through life's storms with strength, hope, and meaning. Resilience and flexibility in hardship are not only about survival, they are about thriving. They transform the way we experience adversity, turning moments of pain into opportunities for growth and wisdom. When we live by this principle, we become stronger than the challenges we face, capable of finding meaning in every trial, and ready to meet the unknown with confidence and courage. Principle 19. Living in harmony with nature. 19th Stoic principle teaches us one of the most profound truths. We must learn to live in harmony with nature. But this concept is not only about the forests, rivers, mountains, and skies, though those are part of it. It is also about the nature within us and the greater order of the universe in which we all exist. Living in harmony with nature means understanding who we are, accepting our place in the larger whole, and aligning our actions with the truth of existence instead of fighting against it. To live in harmony with nature begins with self-knowledge. The Stoics remind us that we must first understand our own essence, our desires, fears, abilities, and limits. So often, people live wearing masks, trying to fit into society's expectations or chase ideals that are not truly their own. But the Stoic path calls us to remove these masks and face ourselves honestly. When we understand our inner nature, we can act with authenticity. Instead of exhausting ourselves trying to become something we are not, we begin to live as who we truly are. Living in harmony with nature also requires us to acknowledge and respect our physical and mental boundaries. Many people see boundaries as weaknesses, but Stoics understood them as essential guides. When we know our limits, we live more wisely. We stop pushing against life in frustration, and instead we work with life. This approach creates balance, reduces unnecessary struggle, and makes us more at peace with the rhythm of existence. But harmony with nature does not end with the self. It extends outward to the world around us. Every creature, every plant, every part of the environment has its role and contribution. Recognizing this fosters respect for all living things. We begin to see that our choices affect not just ourselves, but the entire interconnected web of life. With this awareness, we live more carefully, more wisely, and more respectfully. Nature itself also reminds us of life's cycles: growth, decay, death, and renewal. The Stoics taught us to observe these cycles and see them as reflections of our own lives. Just as the seasons change, so too must we adapt to the changes of life. Many of our sufferings come from resisting change, holding too tightly to what must naturally pass. But when we align with nature, we learn to flow with change, to embrace it as an opportunity for growth rather than a source of fear. Living in harmony with nature also means cultivating humility. We are not the center of the universe, but part of its great unfolding. When we recognize this truth, our arrogance dissolves and gratitude takes its place. We stop demanding that life bend to our desires and instead learn to move gracefully with its flow. In doing so, we experience less resistance and more peace. Another key element of this principle is presence. To live in harmony with nature is to live fully in the moment, to be aware of our surroundings, our actions, and our impact. Too often, people are caught in worries about the future or regrets about the past, missing the beauty of the present. The Stoics remind us that nature exists now, and so must we. By grounding ourselves in the present moment, we align more deeply with the natural rhythm of life. Ultimately, this principle calls us to live authentically, respectfully, and mindfully, to know ourselves, to accept the natural limits of existence, and to move in step with the flow of the universe. When we resist less and cooperate more with nature, we find life becomes lighter, more balanced, and more meaningful. Living in harmony with nature is not about escaping to the wilderness or rejecting modern life. It is about aligning our inner world with the outer order, living truthfully, and respecting the interconnectedness of all things. In doing so, we cultivate peace within ourselves and contribute to a more balanced and compassionate world. Principle 20. The road of virtue is enough. The 20th Stoic principle reminds us of a timeless truth. The road of virtue is enough. In a world obsessed with achievement, wealth, recognition, and external validation, it is easy to feel as though we are never enough, as though our worth depends on titles, possessions, or applause from others. But the Stoics challenge this notion. They tell us that a meaningful life does not depend on external rewards, but on walking the path of virtue itself. To the Stoics, virtue, living with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, was the highest good. Everything else, from wealth to fame to comfort, was considered indifferent, not because these things are useless, but because they cannot guarantee true happiness. You may be rich yet miserable, powerful yet insecure, admired yet empty. But if you cultivate virtue, you carry within you a source of peace and fulfillment that no external force can take away. This principle also reminds us that the pursuit of virtue is not about perfection, but about direction. Life is not a final destination where one day we suddenly arrive at being good or wise. Instead, it is a road, a journey we walk every single day. On this road, progress matters more than perfection. Every choice, no matter how small, is an opportunity to practice virtue, to speak truthfully, to act justly, to show courage, and to live with balance. Think of it this way. If you measure success by external rewards, you will always be at the mercy of things outside your control. The job promotion may or may not come. The recognition may or may not arrive. But if you measure success by whether you acted with integrity, whether you lived in alignment with your values, then success is always within your grasp. The road of virtue is enough, because virtue itself is victory. Walking this road also builds resilience. When challenges or setbacks come, the Stoic does not collapse in despair, because their sense of worth is not tied to fragile externals. Even in hardship, they remain steady, because they know that living rightly is more important than living easily. Adversity becomes another chance to practice virtue, to show patience, endurance, or courage. In this way, even the darkest times can lead us closer to wisdom. The Stoics also warned us against chasing after approval from others. The applause of the crowd is fickle, here today, gone tomorrow. But the approval of your own conscience, the quiet knowledge that you acted rightly, lasts forever. When you walk the road of virtue, you do not need constant validation, because your strength comes from within. You carry your dignity, your integrity, and your peace of mind wherever you go. At times, this road may feel lonely. Others may chase wealth, status, or pleasure while mocking your simplicity. But remember, their path is uncertain while yours is firm. To live by virtue is to align yourself with the deepest truths of existence, to walk in harmony with reason, with nature, and with your highest self. That is a road worth traveling, whether or not the world notices. And so the Stoics urge us, measure your life not by what you accumulate, but by who you become. Do not fear the absence of riches or titles. Fear instead the loss of integrity, the betrayal of your own values, the neglect of your inner compass. For in the end, nothing external can define you as deeply as your own choices. This is the heart of the 20th principle. The road of virtue is enough. If you live wisely, act justly, practice courage, and embrace balance, then you are already living well. You do not need more. You are already walking the highest path, and that path itself is the reward. Principle 21. Ataraxia, the state of inner peace. The 21st Stoic principle centers on one of the most profound states a human being can achieve. Ataraxia, the state of inner peace. To the Stoics, true freedom and happiness were never about external conditions, wealth, power, or reputation, but about the ability to remain unshaken in spirit no matter what happens outside of us. Ataraxia is not about withdrawing from life, nor is it about denying pain or pretending hardships don't exist. Instead, it is the calm that arises when we no longer let external events control our inner state. It is the serenity that comes from recognizing that our thoughts, judgments, and choices are fully within our control, while the chaos of the outside world is not. When we live from this truth, disturbances lose their power over us. Think of the storms of life: loss, insult, setbacks, uncertainty. Most people are thrown around by these storms, reacting with fear, anger, or despair. But the Stoic who cultivates ataraxia becomes like a deep-rooted tree. The winds may blow, the rain may pour, but the roots hold firm. The mind remains steady, not because the world has grown gentler, but because the self has grown stronger. The Stoics believed that the key to ataraxia lies in shifting how we perceive events. Marcus Aurelius wrote that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but the opinions we hold about them. If you label a situation as unbearable, it will feel unbearable. If you see it instead as a challenge to grow, it transforms into an opportunity. The same event can either shatter your peace or deepen it, depending on the story you choose to tell yourself. This principle also teaches us that ataraxia is not passivity. It does not mean we stop striving, stop acting, or stop caring. On the contrary, it means we act with clarity rather than panic, with reason rather than impulse. The Stoic at peace is not idle. They are simply free from the agitation of uncontrolled emotions. They can face adversity with calm courage, make decisions with wisdom, and even savor life's joys more deeply, because they are not clouded by constant turmoil. In practice, cultivating ataraxia requires daily attention. It may begin with simple acts, pausing before reacting, questioning the judgments that stir up anger or fear, and returning the mind to what is within our control. Over time, these small practices accumulate into a profound steadiness, a quiet strength that no insult, failure, or misfortune can easily disturb. Ataraxia also allows us to live more fully in the present. When we are no longer enslaved by anxiety about the future or regret over the past, we are free to experience this moment with gratitude and presence. The mind becomes less cluttered, the heart less restless, and in that space of stillness, life feels richer, simpler, and more complete. The 21st principle reminds us of a truth often forgotten in the rush of modern life. Peace is not found in controlling the world, but in mastering the self. Ataraxia is the reward of inner discipline, of training the mind to release what is beyond its reach and to embrace what it can shape. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom. That tranquility is not the absence of storms, but the calm we cultivate within them. When we achieve ataraxia, we carry an inner sanctuary wherever we go, a state of unshakable peace that no external force can ever take away. Principle 22, resilience through self-discipline. The 22nd Stoic principle reminds us that resilience is not something that appears in moments of crisis by chance. It is built day by day through the steady practice of self-discipline. The Stoics understood that human beings are constantly tempted by short-term pleasures, easy distractions, and the comfort of avoidance. But without discipline, we become prisoners of impulse, unable to stand firm when life's challenges test us. Self-discipline is more than forcing ourselves to do what we dislike. It is about aligning our daily actions with our deeper values and long-term goals, even when it feels difficult. Each time we choose discipline over indulgence, we strengthen our ability to endure hardship with dignity. Each small decision, waking up early to focus on work, resisting the urge to overindulge, staying calm instead of lashing out, is like training the muscles of resilience. The Stoics saw reflection as the foundation of self-discipline. By examining our actions each day, we become more aware of the gap between who we are and who we strive to be. Reflection allows us to adjust, to correct course, and to remind ourselves of what truly matters. It is through this process that discipline stops feeling like a burden and becomes a natural expression of our character. When we practice discipline, we also stop seeing ourselves as fixed, unchanging beings. Instead, we recognize our capacity to grow, to improve, and to meet challenges with increasing strength. The disciplined life is a resilient life because we are no longer at the mercy of whims or circumstances. We develop the power to act with intention rather than react with weakness. This principle also teaches us that self-discipline brings freedom. To many, discipline sounds like restriction, but to the Stoics, it is liberation. Freedom from being ruled by unhealthy cravings, destructive habits, or fluctuating emotions. By mastering ourselves, we gain control over our responses, our direction, and ultimately our destiny. Resilience through discipline does not mean denying joy or avoiding rest. Rather, it means approaching both work and pleasure with balance and awareness. It means knowing when to push forward and when to pause, when to say yes and when to say no. Discipline is the art of living deliberately instead of drifting aimlessly. Over time, the fruits of discipline become clear. We handle loss with greater calm, face challenges with courage, and remain steady under pressure. We are no longer shaken by every setback because we have built an inner fortress brick by brick. This is the resilience that grows not from luck or chance, but from a life lived with consistent effort and purpose. The 22nd principle reminds us, discipline is not punishment. It is preparation. It is the training ground where resilience is forged. When we practice self-discipline in the small moments, we prepare ourselves for the storms of life. And when those storms come, as they always do, we find that we do not break. We bend, endure, and rise stronger. carrying within us the quiet strength that only discipline can provide. Principle 22. Ataraxia, the state of inner peace. Ataraxia is one of the central goals of Stoic philosophy, and it represents a state of profound inner peace, balance, and calmness that cannot be shaken by external events. It is not about living without feelings or pretending not to care about what happens, but rather about cultivating such a strong sense of clarity and composure that life's storms no longer control our inner state. In many ways, this principle embodies the very heart of the Stoic path, learning how to maintain serenity even when the outside world is chaotic, unfair, or uncertain. To understand ataraxia, we must first recognize that emotions themselves are not the enemy. Anger, fear, joy, sadness, and anxiety are natural human responses to life's challenges and opportunities. The problem arises when we allow these emotions to dominate our minds, pushing us into impulsive decisions or draining our energy. The Stoics remind us that we cannot control the first flash of emotion. It comes uninvited, like a spark. But we can control whether we fan that spark into a destructive fire or let it pass away like smoke in the wind. Ataraxia is achieved when we develop the discipline to respond with reason instead of pure reaction. One of the most effective ways to move toward ataraxia is through mindful observation. When an emotion arises, such as anger after being insulted or fear in the face of uncertainty, we can pause and observe it instead of being swept away. By saying to ourselves, "This is anger," or "This is fear," we create distance between ourselves and the emotion. This distance gives us space to choose our response. Instead of shouting in anger or hiding in fear, we can act calmly and wisely. This habit gradually transforms our relationship with our inner world, teaching us that peace does not come from avoiding feelings, but from mastering how to live with them. Another key component of ataraxia is acceptance. The Stoics taught that much of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our resistance to them. When we demand that life be different than it is, we exhaust ourselves in a battle we cannot win. Instead, ataraxia invites us to accept what is beyond our control with equanimity. This does not mean becoming passive or careless. It means acknowledging reality as it is, and then using our energy to act wisely within it. For example, if a storm ruins our plans, we cannot change the weather, but we can choose to spend the day in a way that still brings meaning or joy. Acceptance frees us from needless frustration and opens the door to peace. Cultivating gratitude is also a powerful way to strengthen ataraxia. When we take time each day to notice what is good, the kindness of a friend, the beauty of nature, the lessons in our struggles, we anchor ourselves in abundance rather than lack. Gratitude shifts our focus from what we cannot control to what we can cherish. It nourishes a sense of calm satisfaction that is not easily disturbed by external losses. Stoic thinkers like Seneca and Epictetus also emphasize the importance of simplicity in maintaining ataraxia. The more tangled our lives become with unnecessary desires, possessions, or expectations, the easier it is for our peace of mind to be disturbed. By simplifying, whether through reducing distractions, practicing moderation, or focusing on what truly matters, we clear away the noise that disrupts serenity. Ultimately, ataraxia is not an escape from life, but a deeper engagement with it. A person who has cultivated inner peace is not detached or indifferent. Rather, they are fully present, able to respond with wisdom, courage, and compassion. They are no longer controlled by every shift of fortune, every insult, or every fear of the unknown. Instead, they move steadily through life like a calm river, carrying strength and clarity wherever they go. In essence, the 22nd Stoic principle teaches us that true freedom lies in mastering our inner world. Ataraxia is the fruit of awareness, acceptance, gratitude, and simplicity. By practicing these qualities, we learn to live with unshakable tranquility, no matter what happens around us. This is not a distant ideal, but a daily practice. Each moment is a chance to return to peace, to breathe deeply, and to choose calm over chaos. Through ataraxia, life becomes lighter, clearer, and infinitely more meaningful. Principle 23. Moderation as a way of life. Musonius's teaching. The 23rd Stoic principle comes from Musonius Rufus, often called the Roman Socrates, who emphasized that moderation is not just an idea but a vital way of life. Musonius warned that overindulgence, whether in food, drink, wealth, or even pleasures of the mind, weakens both body and spirit. True happiness and health, he taught, come not from excess, but from balance, restraint, and wise enjoyment. Moderation is the art of finding the middle path between indulgence and deprivation. When we consume too much of anything, even something seemingly harmless, it begins to erode us. Excess in eating, for example, can harm our health, dull the mind, and lead to guilt and regret. But too much restriction can also cause frustration, bitterness, and an eventual collapse into overindulgence. Musonius urged us to avoid both extremes and instead cultivate a balanced approach, one where we enjoy life's pleasures without becoming enslaved to them. For the Stoics, moderation was never about denial for its own sake. It was about preserving freedom. If we cannot say no to something, then we are no longer in control. The thing controls us. Moderation restores our independence, allowing us to engage with the world's offerings without losing ourselves in them. It is the discipline of enjoying a glass of wine without needing the whole bottle, of working hard without becoming consumed by ambition, of resting without falling into laziness. Musonius also linked moderation directly to resilience. By practicing balance, we protect our energy and preserve our strength for what truly matters. When we are neither weakened by excess nor worn down by deprivation, we remain steady and prepared for life's challenges. Moderation becomes a shield, guarding both body and mind from the instability of extremes. This principle also applies to our emotional lives. Just as overeating dulls the body, overindulging in anger, sadness, or even excitement can disturb the soul. Musonius's teaching reminds us to practice temperance in thought and feeling, keeping ourselves calm, clear, and grounded. Balance allows us to meet both joy and hardship with equal composure, never being carried away by either. Living moderately does not mean living small. It means living wisely. It is not about cutting away joy, but about shaping joy so it enriches rather than enslaves. It is about choosing quality over quantity, depth over excess, and purpose over impulse. In this way, moderation brings not only health, but also freedom, harmony, and dignity. Musonius taught that moderation was the secret to both physical vitality and inner peace. By living this way, we align ourselves with nature's rhythm, steady, balanced, and sustainable. We learn to savor without clinging, to enjoy without losing control, and to live fully without destroying ourselves in the process. The 23rd principle is a timeless reminder. A well-lived life is not found in extremes, but in balance. By walking the middle path, we preserve our strength, protect our freedom, and discover a deeper, more lasting kind of happiness, one that is not shaken by excess or scarcity, but rooted in harmony. Principle 24. Guarding the inner dialogue. No self-disparagement. The 24th Stoic principle reminds us of the incredible power of our inner dialogue, the constant voice within our minds that shapes how we see ourselves and how we move through the world. The Stoics warned that this voice can either build us up with resilience and confidence, or quietly destroy us with doubt and despair. Marcus Aurelius himself, though emperor of Rome, often reminded himself not to let negative self-talk creep in, for such thoughts corrode strength from within, self-disparagement. Those moments when we say to ourselves, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never succeed," and is not just harmless venting. It plants seeds of weakness that grow into insecurity, hesitation, and even failure. To think constantly, "I am terrible at this," or "I'll never improve," is to carry around a weight that drags us away from progress. The Stoics believed that the mind must be disciplined not only in how it responds to the world, but also in how it speaks to itself. Guarding the inner dialogue begins with awareness. We must become conscious of the words we repeat in our minds every day. If those words are filled with defeat and self-hatred, they will color every action we take. But if they are rooted in resilience, self-respect, and determination, then even our struggles become opportunities for growth. Epictetus taught that our thoughts are within our control. And so too is the way we choose to speak inwardly to ourselves. This principle does not mean ignoring our flaws or pretending we are perfect. The Stoics valued honesty above all, but there is a difference between honest self-reflection and destructive self-criticism. Honest reflection says, "Here is where I can improve. Now let me act." Self-disparagement says, "I am hopeless. There is no point." One empowers us to grow. The other paralyzes us in despair. When we replace self-disparagement with constructive self-talk, we strengthen our resilience. Instead of saying, "I failed, I'm worthless," we can say, "I failed, but I have learned, and I will try again." Instead of "I'm weak," we can say, "I am still learning, and every day I grow stronger." This shift may seem small, but over time it builds a foundation of confidence and hope that no storm can shake. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that we must remember our own dignity, even in silence, even in solitude. The Stoics knew that how we speak to ourselves when no one is watching is the truest test of strength. Guarding our inner dialogue is therefore not a luxury, but a necessity for mental health, resilience, and personal growth. By actively choosing a positive, growth-focused attitude, we align ourselves with the Stoic path of self-mastery. The way we talk to ourselves becomes the training ground for the way we face the world. Each moment of self-respect adds to our strength. Each moment of despair steals from it. The 24th principle is clear. Never allow self-disparagement to dominate your inner world. Instead, guard your thoughts as you would guard a fortress. Feed your mind with respect, courage, and constructive hope. In doing so, you not only protect your mental well-being, but also unlock the power to live a life of confidence, purpose, and unwavering resilience. Principle 25. The practice of gratitude, silence, and active listening. The 25th Stoic principle combines three essential practices that together create a life of harmony, wisdom, and deeper connection with others: gratitude, silence, and active listening. These are not small habits to be casually adopted. They are powerful disciplines that shape our inner world and the way we move through life. Gratitude is the foundation. Epictetus, whose teachings influenced Stoic thought, emphasized that recognizing and appreciating what we already have is the true key to happiness. When we focus only on what is missing, life becomes a cycle of dissatisfaction, constantly chasing something new but never feeling complete. The Stoics warn against this trap. Instead, they urge us to look with fresh eyes at the blessings we often take for granted: health, food, shelter, friendship, opportunities, and even the struggles that shape us. Gratitude shifts our perspective from scarcity to abundance. A lack of gratitude, on the other hand, reveals itself in subtle but corrosive ways. It can appear as complaining about small inconveniences, overlooking the kindness of others, or failing to recognize the simple joys of daily life. This ungrateful mindset not only weakens our own happiness, but also damages our relationships, leaving others feeling unseen or unappreciated. By practicing gratitude every day, noticing, acknowledging, and expressing appreciation for even the smallest gifts, we transform our inner world and create an atmosphere of respect and trust in our relationships. Silence, the second practice, is equally vital. The Stoics often reminded themselves that not every thought needs to be spoken. Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus both warned of the dangers of careless words. Once released, they cannot be taken back. Silence is not emptiness. It is strength. It is the pause that allows us to consider whether what we are about to say is necessary, true, and kind. Selective silence gives us the power to avoid needless conflict, to conserve our energy, and to live with greater wisdom. In today's world, where constant noise and endless opinions dominate, choosing silence becomes an act of clarity and discipline. It allows us to connect more deeply with ourselves and with others. Silence is not withdrawal. It is intentional restraint, a reminder that wisdom often grows in stillness. Active listening is the third and final piece of this principle. To listen is more than simply hearing words. It requires attention, presence, and respect. Active listening means giving our full focus to another person, not thinking about what we will say next, not judging, but truly understanding their perspective. By listening deeply, we not only honor the other person, but also open ourselves to learning. The Stoics knew that wisdom is not found in constant talking, but in careful observation and thoughtful listening. When we listen well, we strengthen our relationships, build trust, and gain new insights that can guide our own actions. Listening is an act of humility, an acknowledgement that others too carry wisdom that we may not yet see. Together, gratitude, silence, and listening create a powerful triad. Gratitude keeps our hearts open and appreciative. Silence disciplines our tongue and preserves our peace. Listening connects us to others and deepens our understanding. Practicing these every day helps us live with greater serenity, purpose, and connection. The 25th principle reminds us that these are not just external habits, but inner disciplines. To be grateful even in difficulty, to be silent when provoked, and to listen when tempted to speak. These are marks of true strength. When we embody this triad, we not only enrich our own lives, but also bring light, calm, and understanding to those around us. This final Stoic lesson is a call to live with presence and awareness, to appreciate more, to speak less, and to listen deeply. In doing so, we find the wisdom and tranquility that the Stoics themselves sought, and pass on the same strength to others. We have now walked through 25 timeless Stoic principles, lessons that have guided philosophers, leaders, and ordinary people for over 2,000 years. From embracing mortality and cultivating gratitude, to mastering emotions and finding strength in adversity. These principles are not just ideas, and they are tools for living a stronger, calmer, and more meaningful life. The beauty of Stoicism lies in its simplicity. You don't need wealth, status, or perfect circumstances to live by these truths. What you need is awareness, the willingness to pause, reflect, and choose wisely in the face of life's storms. The Stoics remind us that while we cannot control the world around us, we can always control the world within us. And it is in that control and of our thoughts, our choices, our perspective, that true freedom begins. Think of the person you are becoming each day. Every choice, every response, every reflection shapes your character. You are not defined by your past, nor by the chaos of the world outside, but by the principles you decide to live by. And when those principles are rooted in wisdom, resilience, and gratitude, your life becomes a living example of strength and serenity. At Stoic Sage Academy, our mission is to keep this ancient wisdom alive and practical for the challenges of today's world. If these principles spoke to you, I encourage you not just to listen, but to practice. Choose one principle today, even a small one, and apply it. Notice the difference it makes in your thoughts, in your calm, and in your daily choices. Over time, these small steps grow into a way of life. Remember this: storms will come, losses will happen, and the world will test you. But when you are rooted in Stoic wisdom, you stand firm, like the tree whose branches bend but whose trunk remains unshaken. That is the power of this philosophy. That is the power waiting within you. So I invite you, reflect, apply, and grow. Carry these principles with you, not as heavy rules, but as guiding lights on your journey toward resilience, meaning, and peace. This has been Stoic Sage Academy. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Until next time, stay grounded, stay resilient, and live with wisdom.